Om Arabazanade, 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 Om Arabazanade. Now, when I first received the request to teach here this year, they asked me to teach on the topic of how to live happily, how to live and work happily in samsara. And I wrote back and I said, "Are you kidding? How can I give a talk on how to live and work happily in samsara? I could never look my teacher straight in the eye if I gave a talk with that title." Why? Because the nature of samsara is dukkha, unsatisfactory. Yeah. There's no way to live and work happily in samsara. Living and working happily in samsara is like the proverbial rabbit's horn that we talk about in Buddhism. Okay? Rabbit's horns, do they exist? Hello? Do they exist? No. Oh, good. Okay. Somebody's awake out there. So living and working happily in samsara also is like a rabbit's horn, doesn't exist. No way to attain it. So then they changed the title, I think, to something like How to Live and Work in Samsara. So then I thought, well, I don't need to give a talk on that, because all we need to do is keep on doing what we've been doing since beginningless time. How to live and work in samsara. We know how to live and work in samsara very well. We've been perpetuating our own samsara since beginningless time without respite. We don't need the Dharma to teach us how to make ourselves miserable. Okay? The purpose of the Dharma is to teach us how to be happy. Okay? So I think we need to reinvent the name of this talk somehow. Yeah, because we keep coming up with things that really can't, how I'm supposed to come teach you how to live and work in samsara? You think my teacher's going to be happy with me if I do that? Because how am I going to tell you live and work in samsara? Have as much attachment as you possibly can. Okay, this kind of talk maybe you'll like. Yeah? Yeah, have as much attachment as you can. Go shop on Orchard Road, buy as much as you want, get everything you want, okay? Save all your money, don't give it to any charities. Get mad at everybody who gets in the way of you, Get mad at everybody who doesn't let you get your way, everybody who criticizes you. Go out and get drunk, smoke pot, do whatever you want. Yeah, this is what I'm supposed to tell you? How to live and work in samsara? Am I supposed to tell you this? Hello? Okay, so we really need to think, what is the purpose of the Dharma that we're learning? Yeah, is it just to tweak our samsara and make samsara a little bit better, while we continue to live in it? Is that the purpose of the Dharma? Who says yes? Who says no? Who doesn't say anything because they're so attached to their reputation that they don't want to look like a fool if they say the wrong thing? Most of you should put your hands up. Okay. So we really need to think about what the purpose of the Dharma is. Yeah? Is it just to make our life a little bit better, or is it really to liberate us? Okay? And what does making our life a little bit better mean anyway? Yeah? Does making our life a little bit better mean, that the Dharma teacher teaches you how to make more money? Yeah? How to have a better relationship? Well, what's the purpose of the Buddha's teachings? Why are we here anyway? Okay? Yeah? Are you here to get some kind of blessing? Should I take out my bottle of water? Om Sarva Tata Kata, give you some kind of blessing, sprinkle it, hit a drum, ring a bell, then everybody has a blessing? Is that what we're doing? Maybe for some people. No? I think it's important to really think, why did the Buddha spend 45 years of his life going around India giving Dharma talks? Why? What was his purpose? Okay. And so here's, where we really look inside, and where I think we have to be honest with ourselves about what the nature of our life is. Because we all want to be happy, but are we happy? Okay. We have a certain level of happiness, a certain degree of happiness. You have a good lunch, you have a good friend. There's certain levels of happiness. But are they the kind of happiness that is really going to satisfy us? Is it that kind of happiness that is going to last for a long time? Because you have lunch, and it's good, and then it's over. Right? Yeah. You go on a wonderful holiday, you have a good time, and then it's over. Yeah. You meet Prince Charming or Princess Charming. Yeah. You have a whirlwind romantic relationship, and then it's over. So how much satisfaction and lasting happiness do we really have while we're living and working in samsara? Not much, actually, do we? Yeah. It's a constant struggle for happiness as we're trying to rearrange the world and rearrange everybody in it to make it be what we want it to be, to make it be what we think it should be. Okay. And somehow the world never cooperates. Okay. So this is, I think, the real purpose of the Buddha's teachings was not to get us to tweak our samsara, how to have a little bit more worldly pleasure, but actually how to transform our minds so that wherever we are, whoever we're with, we can have happiness and we can act in a beneficial way. I think the Buddha taught the Dharma so that we can solve more problems than we create with our life. Okay. So to be able to do this, to be able to solve more problems than we create, we have to really begin to look at our lives and what do we do that creates problems? And what do we do that solves problems? So before I encountered Buddha's teachings, I thought I was a pretty nice person. Okay? In fact, I thought I was a very nice person. I was almost perfect, except the world just didn't realize it yet. It showed how stupid the world was. Okay, I was a pretty good person. Yeah, I created more happiness than problems. I solved more problems. I was living a really good life, and but I found myself at this Buddhist course, taught by Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa. And what they said made me really take another look at my life and ask myself, was I really solving more problems than I was creating? And was I really as wonderful as I thought I was? And the answer was, when I took a good look, was no. Okay, that actually my mind was quite a mess, and I was in the process of making a big mess out of my life that I had never even realized before. Because when we're all wrapped up in our attachment, we don't realize what a mess we're making in our life. So it was a very sobering experience for me to really start to look closely at what I was doing and the long-term karmic results that my actions were having, and the long-term results that my actions were having on other people. So it was really rather shocking. Actually, it was more than shocking, it was horrifying. Because my self-image changed radically from thinking that I was, God's gift to the world, to seeing that I needed to do a lot of work on myself. And becoming honest about the degree of selfishness within was quite difficult. But at the same time, it was a very big relief. Because as long as we're trying to rationalize our actions and justify them and explain them away and cover up all of our negativities, then there's no possible way to ever get over them and do anything beneficial, because we're spending all of our energy in make-believe, not being honest with ourselves or with others. And so one of the first things to do is to learn to be honest, and to learn to be okay with being honest. Okay? Because, we always like to present ourselves very well, don't we? We don't like to say, hi, I'm full of ignorance, anger, and attachment, and I'm extremely selfish, so don't trust me very much. We don't like to introduce ourselves that way. But it's actually an honest introduction, isn't it? Hi. Do you have AA here in Singapore, Alcoholics Anonymous? No. Do you? Nobody here is an alcoholic? Oh, I know, you're all workaholics. I got the wrong aholic. That's right. Okay, so not alcoholics, workaholics. Okay. But in Alcoholics Anonymous, they always say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm an alcoholic. So as Buddhists, we need to say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm full of ignorance, anger, attachment, and I'm extremely selfish. Okay? Just so that we're honest. Okay? Because I think we need that kind of honesty before we can begin to change. Because until we own what is our own creation, until we own that, then we're always going to see problems as something external to us. Okay? Why am I miserable? Because of my husband. Good reason for becoming a nun. Okay? Why am I miserable? Because of my wife. Okay, so you can become monks. Okay? Why am I miserable? Well, because of my professors, because of my employers, because of my mother and my father and my sister and my brother. Okay? Because of George Bush. I heard Singaporeans like him. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Well, I'm an American. I don't like him. Okay. No. Why do I have problems? Oh, here we can agree. Osama bin Laden, right? Okay, Saddam Hussein, we all agree, okay. So, but we're always putting the brunt of our difficulties on someone or something outside. And, the fundamental thing of practicing the Dharma is to stop doing that. And that's really, really hard because we're so habituated with seeing the cause of our misery as external to us and also seeing the cause of our happiness as external to us. And so that first step of being honest with ourselves is being honest about how deep that ignorance is, how deep our wrong views are. Okay? And to begin to retrain our mind through doing very deep investigation of our own perceptions. Are the things that I perceive real as they appear to me? Okay? And so this starts out a whole chain of questioning that is very creative and very wonderful about the Buddha's teachings. So we start this chain of questioning just with very basic things. Okay? We're taught that money is the cause of happiness. So we start to question that. Okay? Does money exist as the cause of happiness in the way it appears to me? Okay? In other words, I'm taught from the time I'm very little to get as much money as possible, and then I'll be happy. Now, is that really true? I was taught that, but is it true? In my own experience, the more money I get, does my happiness increase proportionately? Okay, think about it. Think about how much money do you need to say you have enough. Even rich people need a little bit more. How much are you going to earn when you say, now I have enough? We'll never get to that amount. How much can you earn so you feel totally secure? Never reach that amount. First you say it's $1,000. You get 1,000, then still not secure, still not happy, still want to buy something more. So have to get something more. So then you work, then you get 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000. No? Still no lasting happiness. And sometimes what you get when you make a lot of money is you get a lot of false friends who want to borrow your money. And you have a lot of relatives that you didn't know you had before. They all turn up, just as soon as you got a pay raise. Okay. So does, more money really bring more happiness? And if we're stingy and we hold on to our money, what does it do for the society that we live in? Okay? If everybody just took care of themselves and held on to their money and wasn't generous, would we live in a happy society? No, we live in quite a miserable society. Because if people don't share what they have, then you're going to have a lot of discontent and a lot of misery. And we can build ourselves our, little gates around our own house so that nobody comes and takes what we have. But how can we live with a peaceful heart when we're very stingy and we don't share what we have with other people? Could you live in society peacefully knowing that there were people starving in the streets? No. So I think that's something very good, that we start to realize that just hoarding money for our own benefit doesn't bring us happiness. We begin to question that. And that enables us to be more generous with our family, more generous with the poor and the needy and the sick. If we're generous in that way, then we can have a much happier society because people share. And the mind that takes delight in giving is actually a mind that's much happier than a mind that keeps everything for itself. Okay. So we might get a lot of money, and money's the cause of happiness, and I get all my money and I stuff it somewhere. You have robes, then you can stuff it. You know? Just hold a lot of stuff here. It just looks like you got fat all of a sudden. And then it all falls out when you stand up because there's no pockets. But, you know, it doesn't really bring the happiness that we thought it would. And learning, developing a mind that's generous, that takes delight in giving, brings a lot more happiness to us. Okay? So that's something we begin to question. Yeah. So we start taking out a lot of the conditioning that we've been raised with, and we start to question it and come to our own conclusions. For example, does making everybody in my family do what I want them to do, is that the cause of happiness? What do you think? Yeah. Superficially, it looks like it would bring us happiness, doesn't it? No. If I can just, make my husband or wife do this, if I can get my kids to do that, if I could make my parents do this, if I could rearrange everybody in my family so that they think differently, so that they have different jobs, so that they do this, so that they're the perfect family I want, then I'll be happy. Okay, that's one thought we have. And we start to rearrange everybody in our family, and they get quite upset with us. And they say, mind your own business. And then they give us advice about what to do. And we say to them, mind your own business. And so nobody accepts anybody else, and we all wind up living quite miserably together. So this view that we have of, if only I could change everybody in my family and make them do what I want them to do, then I'll be happy. No, that's not really true, because the more we try and coerce people and nag them and bug them and complain to them and complain about them, trying to get them to be different, the more unhappy they are. And the more unhappy we are. Whereas if we can really accept our family members and love them as they are, then there's a chance that we can live peacefully together with them. But as long as we're always nagging them and pestering them, family life is not going to be very happy. So do you see what I'm getting at when I say take out some of our assumptions, take out some of our beliefs, and see if they are really true? Question them. Ask ourselves. Some people think that when their health is bad, that then they have to be miserable. I have bad health, therefore my life has no purpose, therefore I've got to be miserable. Therefore, my health is bad, therefore I have the right to complain, and everybody has to listen to it. Don't we have that idea somewhere? Yeah? I don't feel well, so now I have the right to complain. Oh, good. Yeah. Let's get into my complaining mode. Complain. Oh, I hurt. Oh, this is wrong. And because my health is poor, everybody has to listen. Then everybody has to feel sorry for me. Then I'll be happy, right? Are you happy when you complain about your health and feel sorry for yourself? Anybody happy? No. Okay, we're not happy. Nobody else is happy. So that idea that, complaining will bring me happiness, or that my life is meaningless because I don't have good health, is that true? Is that true? No, I don't think that's a true belief at all. And you might say, well, if I don't have my health, I can't do so many other things. So, I can't go to work, I can't make money. So maybe my life has no meaning. If I can't make money, what good am I? Well, from a Buddhist viewpoint, your life can be very meaningful even if your health is poor, or even if you're old. Okay? How do we make our life meaningful? By the way we think. Okay? By the kinds of emotions that we cultivate in our own heart, we can make our life extremely meaningful. Just because people are very busy running around society doing lots of things doesn't mean that their life is meaningful, because they could be very busy creating a lot of problems. Yeah, terrorists are extremely busy people. Yeah? I mean, they're terrorists. They're very hardworking, extremely hardworking. They don't get discouraged when they have a little bit of a glitch in their program, but they keep working very hard. They work overtime, day and night. Terrorists work in extremely, bad conditions, mountain caves, underground laboratories, very difficult conditions. We can't accuse terrorists of being lazy and sloughing off, can we? Yeah? They work more overtime than the rest of us. Does working hard mean that our life is meaningful? No. Who wants to work hard and be a terrorist? Yeah? Life is completely meaningless. Now, that's really creating more suffering, more problems than we envision. Okay? So you might be a terrorist in excellent health, work overtime, work more hours than somebody in Singapore, but have a totally meaningless life. Okay? Whereas somebody who's sick, they may sit at home and they may cultivate metta, loving kindness. They may cultivate patience. They may do some very deep meditation and transform their mind. And as a result, be able to teach others about how to have good ethical values, how to be generous, how to be more tolerant. Okay. So somebody like this, even their health isn't very good, their life becomes extremely meaningful because of what they're doing with their mind, what they're thinking about, the emotions that they're generating. So don't think that just because you get old or because you're sick that therefore your life has no meaning. I think actually life can have very great meaning at that time. Okay, so that's another thing to start to question. And then the biggest thing that we actually need to question is, do things exist in the way that they appear to us to exist? Do things exist as external objects with their own essence out there? Or do things exist in relationship to our mind? Okay. So this brings us into the whole topic of selflessness or emptiness. How do things really exist? And before, when we were generating the motivation, I talked about how, so much of what we perceive is a hallucination, and yet we believe it as true. Okay? And that's because we just, how things appear to us, how we grasp them, they look so real as if they all had their own essence, their own nature. We relate to them in that way, and yet they don't exist that way at all. Yeah, they exist as dependent phenomena in relationship to the mind, in relationship to other things. Okay. So an analogy that is often used for emptiness is a reflection in a mirror. Okay? When you look at a reflection in the mirror, it looks like a real face, doesn't it? Yeah? Is there a real face in the mirror? No. But, when you're a baby, Or when you're a little cat or a dog, you think that there's a face in the mirror, don't you? Now, a little baby goes, oh, there's another little baby there, I'll go play. And they hit, and that little baby is flat and cold and hard. Okay? They don't realize that there's not a real face in the mirror. Okay? When we grow older, we begin to realize that. Okay? But still, sometimes, even though it's not a real face, we relate to the image in the mirror as if it were a real face. Because when we look in the mirror and we see pimples, ooh, I'm so ugly. We get really upset. Some people get so upset when they look in the mirror that they throw something at the mirror and break it. Okay, does that solve any problems? No. Okay, because there's no face in the mirror. What are you going to destroy? You're going to destroy your pimples by breaking the mirror? Okay. So it looks like a real face, but actually it's only an image. And it's an image that arose due to the coming together of many different factors. You have the mirror, you have a person in front of the mirror, you have there being light in the room, you have the mirror being free of dust and dirt. Depending on a lot of different circumstances, then the reflection appears in the mirror. So the reflection is something that exists dependently, but there's no real face in the mirror. Okay, so the reflection exists, but the face in the mirror doesn't exist. Another example that they didn't use in ancient India because they didn't have, but I think this is an excellent example, is a TV. Okay? When you play the TV, it looks like there's real people there. And we relate to the people on the TV as if they were real. We're watching a movie, and boy kisses girl, and we go, ah, and then we watch the movie, and then there's a war, and they're beating each other up, and we go, oh, we relate to what's in the movie as if it were real. We can, a lot of emotions can come up when we're watching the movie or when we're watching the news. But are there real people there in the TV? No. So it's so funny, isn't it? Because there aren't real people there at all. And yet we relate to what we see in the TV as if they were really people. But there's no people anyway. If you open up the TV, you don't find, what is it? Richard Gere or somebody inside that little box in your living room. Okay? I don't know any movie stars. I only know Richard because he comes to Dharma teachings. But if you mention any other movie stars' names to me, I don't know, except Arnold Schwarzenegger because he got elected governor. Oh my goodness. Yeah, American politics are pretty weird. Okay, but aside from that, I don't know anything about movie stars. Anyway, we relate to these figures in the TV as if they were real, when there's no people there. But we can get quite emotional about something that isn't even real. It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? How emotional that we get when we watch, a TV program, because it isn't even happening. And so in the same way, what we perceive during the daytime, things don't exist in the way that they appear to us. Things that appear to us to have their own essence, their own nature from their own side. But do they, when we start to examine, can we find something that is really the thing that has that name. So when we start to investigate the ultimate nature, when we're doing meditation on emptiness, we take a word and we start to investigate, what does that really refer to? Okay. We say that this is a clock. What really is the clock? What does the word clock really refer to? Okay. So if I start taking this clock apart, which I won't because somebody might get upset with me, but if we just mentally take it apart, yeah, is this back the clock? Is the front the clock? Are the two hands the clock? Is just the face with the numbers the clock? When we start to examine and try and find the thing that really is the clock, we can't find any final referent of the name clock. Any final thing that we can identify as the clock. Does that mean that there's no clock? No, there's a clock. Now you think I'm really crazy. First I say there's no clock, then I say there is a clock. Okay? There's no clock from the ultimate viewpoint. When we look for the ultimate nature of the clock, when we look for an object, a findable object that the word clock ultimately refers to, there's nothing there. There's no clock. There's no clock that can be found. When we don't analyze, when we're just talking on the level of appearances and conventionalities and linguistics, how we use words, then we all look in this direction and we say there's a clock there. And we all understand that this is a clock and what it does. Okay. So those two things exist at the same time. Okay? At the same time, there is a clock, but there isn't a real clock. Okay? There's a clock that appears due to the collection of many different parts and due to us having the idea of a clock and giving it the name clock. But there's no clock that appears from the side of this object, radiating out clock nature. Okay. Well, so it's kind of easy talking about the clock, right? Nobody gets too upset talking about the clock. Okay. Let's talk about ourselves. What about me? Okay, now we're getting into something a little bit more interesting. Clock. Me? Okay. Now, I exist. We have that feeling very strongly, don't we? Me. I want this. You know how when that mind comes up? Yeah, we have it 10 gazillion times a day. I want this. And the I feels so strong, doesn't it? I want. Or we say, I need. Yeah, because I want isn't so polite. So we say, I need. And it sounds more like we really have to have it. But we're still wanting it. It's not really a need because we can't discriminate between needs and wants. But anyway, there's a real I that's in the middle of that. Or there's an I don't want. Yeah, an I don't like. Get this away from me. I can't stand it. Okay. And we never doubt that I. Okay, that I that says I want or I don't like. Do we ever investigate that I? Who is it? Who is it? What is it? When we have, remember a time when you had that thought so strongly, I want. Now, recall something that you wanted, really strong. I want. I have to have. Who is that I? We say, well, it's me. Who? Who? Well, we pull out our passport. This is who I am. Look, there's a piece of paper. It has a chop on it. Yeah, that's who I am. Are you your passport? When your passport expires, then do you expire? Okay? Just because there's a name, does that mean that there's a real person there? Okay. Who are we really? What are we finally going to draw a line around and say, this is me? And yet there's this incredibly strong feeling of me that's there all day, all night, all the time. Me, I. Yeah, I don't like, I want, I have to have, get this away from me. I'm wonderful, I can't stand myself. You know, we go, ay, ay, ay. You know, it's always I, isn't it? But who is that I? We say, me. What? Who? Who? Me. This? Yeah. You cut me in here, open it up, you're going to find me. You're going to find a lot of disgusting lungs and blood and guts. You don't want that, do you? Okay. Well, who are we really? And when we start to look, when we start to analyze and examine, it's like trying to touch the baby in the mirror. Looks like there's a baby in the mirror. Can't touch it. Yeah. Looks real. But when you go to touch, find something that really is me, the whole thing kind of evaporates. You can't find. Does that mean we don't exist? No, we still exist. Do we exist the way we appear to exist? No. Are we totally non-existent? No. Can we find ourselves? Can we find something that really is me? No. So when we say the word I, what does it refer to? When we analyze and look what the word I refers to, that's when we can't find anything. When we don't analyze, then the word I refers to whatever is here at this particular moment. Okay? The I just, we can label, Susan or Joe or Soknoy or, whatever name you want to give to somebody. You can label that, but can you find a real person there? No. Does the person not exist? No, because you can use their name and they recognize it and they come. Okay? So that's what it means when we say that things exist on the level of nominality, or things nominally exist, they conventionally exist. They exist due to words and concepts. But they don't exist by their own nature, from their own side, independent of words and concepts, independent of causes and conditions, independent of the basis upon which we impute that word. So that's another level of reality, when I'm talking about questioning and chipping away and learning to be honest with ourselves. We just slowly start to dissect those things and keep asking questions. Do things function the way I was taught they function? Do things exist the way I was taught they exist? Do things exist in the way I just took for granted that they exist? So to really investigate. And through that, what we do is we are able to let go of our misconceptions and generate the correct view. And we're also able to generate a compassionate heart, because through this questioning we begin to see that cherishing others is the same as cherishing ourselves, that there's no real difference between it. And then through that, our actions change. What we think about, our mental actions, what we say, our verbal actions, what we do, our physical actions, all that changes. And so the results of our actions change. Then samsara falls apart. Then you don't need to talk about how to live and work in samsara, because there's no samsara anymore. Okay. So that's just a little bit. What I'd like to do now is open it up for questions and comments and see what you're interested in and what you'd like me to talk about. Yes.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
People are practicing Buddhism for many years, 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
When they commit something unwholesome, they were giving excuses as, oh, this is purification. This is the karmic ripen or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think of this point? Is it superstitions or maybe it's just...
Okay, so let me see if I understand your question. You're saying that somebody who's been practicing the Dharma for many, many years, then they do something, their action is something unwholesome, and then they say this is a karmic ripening. No,
Purification.
it's a purification. Their unwholesome action is a purification? That's news to me. No, I mean, the karma is your action in that very moment. So if somebody's doing something unwholesome, that is karma. Yeah, that's not purification. We may talk about, you may practice for a long time and then have something unpleasant or some misfortune in your life. And then you may say that's purification, in the sense that what you're experiencing as something unpleasant becomes purification if you see that as a karmic ripening, and then you don't get angry about it and you don't feel sorry for yourself and you take the situation and learn from it. That way, because of your way of thinking, what you're experiencing becomes purification. But what you're doing is, when you create negative action, that is not purification.
No, they're using the term of clearing obstacles and so on.
Clearing obstacles, when we use the term clearing obstacles, that refers to, we may have some misfortune in our life, but we use our way of thinking about it to transform it so it becomes part of the path. Okay? So let's say I get sick and I can't go to Dharma teachings because I'm sick. Well, instead of saying, oh, look, there's this huge obstacle to my Dharma practice because I'm sick, I say, okay, I'm sick because I created some kind of negative karma in a past life, and it's ripening as the illness that I'm experiencing right now. So there's no reason to get angry because I'm sick, because it's due to my own negative actions in a previous life. So what I'm going to do is in the future not create any more negative actions that bring this result. And right now, while I'm sick, I'm going to do the taking and giving meditation and imagine taking on others' suffering and giving them my happiness. Then you're actually, through the way you're thinking, you're clearing obstacles, because you're taking a situation in which somebody would normally, experience suffering and then get upset, and you're transforming your whole experience through using the Dharma. So that's what's meant by clearing obstacles. Okay? What's meant by purification is we might do some purification practice like Vajrasattva or 35 Buddhas or mandala offerings, something like this, making offerings. So we might do a purification practice that impedes the ripening of the negative karma that we've created in the past. Okay? Or we might when we have an obstacle or some misfortune now, we might take that as purification, thinking that this karma that created this problem I have right now could have actually ripened in me being born in the hell realm for 15 million eons. And so rather than ripen like that, I got this problem now. Well, this problem now is really kind of easy. It's a cinch. I don't need to get bent out of shape. It certainly beats being born in the hell realm for, 15 million eons. So then, through the way that you're thinking about the problem, you take it as purification. Okay, is that clear about how the words are used? But when somebody creates negative action, it's negative action, that's all. There's no way to paint it as anything else. Okay. Other questions?
If the I is not real, it also implies the Buddha is not real.
Mm.
And the object of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is not real.
Mm.
And then what is real?
Okay. So if the I isn't real, then it implies the Buddha isn't real. So that means the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha aren't real. So what is real? Okay. If we define, and here I'm defining real in a special way, real means findable under analysis. Okay? Nothing is real in the sense that under ultimate analysis you can't find anything. So the Buddha is as unreal as we are. In fact, there's a Zen saying, a Chan saying, that if you find the Buddha on the road, kill him. I think my way of interpreting that means that if you start thinking of the Buddha as truly existent, you have to kill that thought. Because even the Buddha doesn't exist independently from his own side, by his own nature. No, nor does the Dharma, nor does the Sangha. In the Heart Sutra, it says there is no suffering, origin, cessation, or path. Okay, cessation and path, those are the last two noble truths. Those are the Dharma refuge. When it says that there is no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, it means that not only is suffering non-inherently existent, but so is the cause of suffering non-inherently existent. So is the cessation of it. So is the path. In other words, we can't take the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha and reify them and make them into concrete, because everything in the universe is empty of inherent existence. Even emptiness is empty. If you start thinking of emptiness as some kind of solid reality, up there in the sky, as some independent absolute truth, then you've completely missed what emptiness is. Because emptiness also exists conventionally. It exists by being merely labeled. It exists dependent on other factors. Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's many sutras available. How do we know that it's what the Buddha taught and that it's not made up by somebody else? We just basically have to trust the tradition. Yeah? We just basically, until you have clairvoyant powers where you can, see the past and know that the Buddha spoke those, then you basically have to trust. It's like history books. Do you believe history books? Now I've got you. Yeah? We read history books. We believe in what's written in the history book. How do you know what's written in the history book is true? I majored in history. I got my degree in history at UCLA. You know what my conclusion is? History is basically gossip from a male viewpoint. Okay? If it were women writing the books, there would be totally different things written in the history books. It wouldn't be all about war and money and conquest. Women would write about different things, wouldn't we? Yeah? Okay. And how do you know all this stuff that's written in the history? I mean, they rewrite the history books according to who's in power now, don't they? Yeah? So do we believe what's in the history books? 100%. Should we? I'm not so sure. Okay. I mean, how do we ever know what really happened in the past? Even, I mean, we can see even in our family, we all experience something, then the next day we all tell the story of what happened. We all have different stories, don't we? Which one is the true story? Mine. Why? Because it's mine. How do we, we all have our own viewpoints. Okay? But, that aside, the fact that we can't really ascertain it, for me, when all this controversy starts of, is this a real sutra or that a real sutra? Did the Buddha really speak the Mahayana sutras, or were they written afterwards? That question, personally speaking, doesn't interest me very much, because when I read the sutras, they describe my own experience, and when I practice them, they work. So that's good enough for me. Yeah, if the Buddha didn't teach them, it must have been somebody else who was as wise as the Buddha. Because, bottom line is if you practice them, they work.
Om Nare Bazanade